Hello again. Welcome to SwamiLee's Sports Talk here at SwamiLee's Sports Cards and Collectibles in Pennsauken, New Jersey. I'm Swami Lee.
I'm Mellow Mike.
I'm Chill Ed.
Okay, I guess I'm Cool Mo Lee again because I got to fit in with the cool kids. Never was able to do that before, but I'm going to try now. But anyway, we're going to chat about some topics today. We're probably going to try to cover a couple interesting topics, but right now, neither Ed nor myself have any idea what those interesting topics are. So we're going to go right into it and ask Mike, what's our topic for the day?
Well, guys, at heart, first and foremost, the Swami and I are baseball guys. The fact that I changed into an Orioles jersey might have been a bit of a clue that we're going to talk baseball. Even though it's the off-season, it's a great time to be a baseball fan. And we do have a lot to talk about, even though nobody set foot in the field in over a month. So, first off, rumors. Phillies trying to get Manny Machado, negotiating so that they'd be able to negotiate an extension in the event of a trade.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm going to take this first of all. I want to say that Phillies fans on Facebook may be the stupidest people alive. Okay?
Are they more stupid than the Phillies fans who talk about bringing in Jamarcus Russell?
Nobody is stupider than the guy who wants to bring in Jamarcus Russell.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you something. Manny Machado, by the way, is most likely a future Hall of Famer, barring injury. He is one of the best in the game. He's got to be a top 10 player in the entire game. Any disagreements on that? Any disagreements on that?
No.
Okay, this guy's a stallion, okay? Now, let's assume they can get an extension worked out in advance, which, by the way, looks like they can't. But let's just pretend they can. This is where this conversation comes into play, okay? Mm-hmm. These imbeciles on Facebook, I can't think of a word stronger than imbeciles without using profanity, okay? Don't want to trade Mike Kingery.
Or Scott Kingery.
Oh, well, they would trade Mike Kingery, obviously. That was his father, my bad. Anyway, they don't want to trade Scott Kingery, okay, for Manny Machado because Scott Kingery is going to be really, really good. Let me ask you this question, and be honest for a moment, because we're always honest. Start with Mike. Before June or July, what did you know about Scott Kingery?
I knew for a while before that he was a highly ranked prospect who was thought to have a heck of a lot of potential.
Ed, what did you know about him?
Same.
Okay.
Same.
Well, I knew even less, okay? The guy wasn't anything more than projected to be a starting second baseman, which is good.
Right.
I mean, that's a prospect if you're projected to be a starter. He was not projected to be Ryan Sandberg. Okay, he was going to be the next second baseman. He was probably going to be another Cesar Hernandez if they were lucky. More power, but less other skills. Okay?
Okay.
What do you think Joe Average fan in Philly knew about Scott Kingery in June, July?
Average fan? Nothing at all.
The same okay, wait, before we go on, Sixto Sanchez, who, by the way, if he makes the major leagues, will not be the first major leaguer named Sixto.
Sixto Lizenko.
Or
Lescano.
Played for
Messed
the
up the
Phillies,
last name.
among other teams.
As a matter of fact, I have his baseball card.
There you go. Sixto Sanchez, who, by the way, is a stud pitching prospect. Back in June of this year, what did you know about Sixto Sanchez?
That he could throw a really, really fast ball.
Was he going to be the next Ryan?
We knew that he had control problems. We knew that he was years away from being ready for the major leagues, and that while he had a lot of potential, he might never even make it.
Ed?
I just knew he could throw really fast, and that his name was Sixto.
Exactly.
That's it.
How
Being
many
honest.
How many of these Facebook Phillies fans do you think had a clue about either one of these players?
Nothing, because that's what all the articles come out, and then they go, oh, well, we can't lose this guy and this guy. I want to win now. I don't care about 3 years from now.
Wait a minute. Do you understand that Machado is 25 years old?
Yeah.
How old is Kingery? Do we even know how old Kingery is?
I would back
Early
up.
20s.
I would back up the Brinks truck. Do whatever it takes.
I would trade, not only would I trade Kingery and Sanchez and drive them to the airport, and if necessary, drive them to Baltimore, okay? And I am offering that, by the way. I would then throw in two other good prospects. I don't mean guys that Jeter traded for, got for Stanton. I'm talking, I would throw in, you want Franco? You can have Franco. Do you want Jake Thompson? You can have Jake Thompson. But you have to get the contract worked out in advance. You do not make that trade hoping that you can keep those guys.
Okay.
This is not a 1-year deal. That becomes foolish.
Right.
Now I'll take a breath, Ed. What are your thoughts?
Oh, like I said, I'd back up the Brinks truck for him. But I agree with you. Get the contract sold first. You're not giving up everything just to have for a rent him for 1 year. Now, like I said, I want to win now. I don't want to win 10 years from now. I want to win now. I want to win. I want this team to be competitive again and be in the playoffs and be in the NLCS and get to the World Series and win a World Series. And with that, sometimes you need to bite the bullet. Look what they did with Dominic Brown. Held on to Dominic Brown for so many years. So many years. And that was the one piece that everyone wanted. And he had he had a good 2 months.
He had May of 14, was it?
Yeah,
13.
And then that was it. Even then, you could have traded him then. Even then. And that was the one guy that they refused to trade. And where's Dominic Brown now? He's serving fries at In-N-Out Burger, probably.
Actually, I think he's the burger guy, not the fry guy.
Okay, well, then he graduated.
And he wears a cowboy jersey under his uniform.
Yeah, so
he kind of belongs
he
there.
he can go. But would I make a trade of these absolutely. I wouldn't even think twice about it. When I read last night, Phillies aren't willing to give up these 2 prospects, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. For a kid that's 25 years old, and for me, I can say he's a kid.
Who's a top 10 player in the game.
Who's a top 10 player, and like you said, barring injury, a future Hall of Famer, and you can get him and Hoskins in the lineup together? Are you kidding me? Who doesn't do that?
So what's the contract? You're the GM. What is the contract? Now remember, he has to accept the contract, so 2 years, $20 million isn't going to get it done.
See, I'm not. There's one thing I do hate about baseball is the contracts in baseball. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. He's guaranteed.
So you love the designated hitter?
I actually am a fan of the designated hitter. I actually am. I can't. I have to be honest. I used to love Frank Thomas, and that he built his career on being a DH.
I wish I hadn't interrupted you. Go on. The contracts.
At 25 years old.
Without a significant injury history, if I remember correctly.
Just a struggle the first couple months last year.
I guess 25, maybe
give the whole contract. How many years and how much money?
I'd probably give him a 5 years with options. See, that's not going to work either. I could.
No, it won't. Ed, I'm sorry, but Manny Machado called you back, the GM of the Phillies, and said, Ed, we're not doing business.
So what do you want? He wants a 10-year contract?
Hang on.
A 10-year contract?
Hang on. Mike, what is the contract that you would offer Manny Machado?
I'd
hoping he would accept it.
To tack on at the end of this contract, say 8 years for $260.
Manny just called and said, Mike, I'm not signing with your team. Manny Machado, first of all, if I was the Phillies GM, okay, I would rip up this year's contract completely. I'd pick him up in a trade, and I'd offer him this contract. I'd rip up his current contract. He's probably getting paid, top of my head, don't quote me, $14 million this year. I'd rip it up, say, don't worry about that, forget you even signed that contract. I would give him a 10-year contract, guaranteed money, of course, because that's what baseball is. 10-year contract. I'd give him $325 million over that 10-year contract. And then I would also offer him an out, because I wanted to sign. But 5 years later, none of this 2-year out stuff. That's ridiculous. 5 years into the contract, I would offer him an out. But the bulk of that money would come after the 5 years. So in other words, maybe I'm at $25 million a year for the first 5 years, and maybe I'm $37 million a year after the out.
And is that out a bilateral option or a player-only option?
Player-only option. Hang on. In that case, you don't want Manny Machado, which is okay. But there is no way in God's green earth Manny Machado signs for less than 10 years, first of all, and he's likely going to want an out.
Okay, well, if you look at the numbers you and I proposed, there's one difference, because 8 for $260 comes to $32.5 a year.
Correct.
So really, all you and I are talking about is those last 2 years.
There's no way he takes less than 10-year contract. It's impossible. Unless, hang on, he breaks his leg this season, okay, and he doesn't play, and then he's a free agent, and teams are a little worried. So maybe he takes a 1-year, $25 million contract with somebody to show that he can play baseball.
No, they'll still sign it. Somebody will still sign him long term.
If they're concerned about him, they may not give him the years he wants. That's happened a lot in baseball.
Now, here's why he takes an 8-year contract if it's offered to him with enough money. So that way, when that contract runs out, he's still in his prime enough that he gets another big contract.
Logic is sound, but it's not how baseball players think. The baseball players think $325 million guaranteed, I'll take that money and not worry about it. Because you know what? In 10 years, I may not want to play anymore anyway. I've got 325. That's more than $250 million that I've earned at my job. So,
Right.
just my thought. Anyway, we need a break for commercial break here,
Okay.
so we'll be back with you shortly. SwamiLee's Sports Talk.
Hello, I'm Dickie Knowles, 1980 Philadelphia Phillies pitcher. That was the year we won the World Series, our very first in our history. And when I'm in South Jersey, I love stopping at SwamiLee's for the best card selection in the Delaware Valley area.
And we're back here at SwamiLee's Sports Cards Collectibles with SwamiLee's Sports Talk. I'm Swami Lee.
I am Mellow Mike.
I'm Chill Ed.
I guess I really need to go back to this Cool Mo Lee thing, so I'm one of the cool kids. So, we've already talked about how stupid Phillies fans are. Sorry, guys, but facts are facts. If you won't trade Kingery and Sanchez for Machado, you're stupid. No more or less to it than that. But why don't we talk about somebody even stupider? How about somebody who has no knowledge of the game of baseball, despite making $250 million in his career, despite being told he's the greatest human being to ever walk the earth, and definitely somebody that gives out the best gift baskets to his conquests. Yes, folks, I am talking about the captain, Derek Jeter, in his new position as, well, I don't even know what to call him because he's so bad at his job with the Miami Marlins. Now, I'm going to let these gentlemen speak because there won't be time for anybody else if I start. So let's just say this. Mr. Jeter traded the reigning NL MVP, who had 59 home runs, was it? To the Yankees for some magic beans, a 6-pack of Pepsi, and I believe it was 2 bags of baseballs. Mike?
Well, you know, you got to say that Giancarlo, don't call me Mike, Stanton, is one of the top 5 players in the game. That being said, I wouldn't have traded for him, not with that contract, not with that out, not with that injury history.
But let me ask you a question. Not to interrupt you, but let me ask you a question. Would you have given up 2 non-top 30 prospects to pick up his contract? In other words, would you take him for nothing just to pick up his contract?
I probably would.
Well, that's what the Yankees did. They picked him up for nothing. They gave up nothing to get him. Sorry, return.
And of course, you know, I shudder to think of how those poor Orioles fans and those poor Rays fans are going to feel having, is it 18 or 19 games a year, facing Stanton and Judge,
19.
Junt and Stanton in succession. Because that's going to be to call it reminiscent of Mantle and Maris would be an overstatement, but maybe not by too much.
Well, they got Maris for next to nothing from, I don't even remember.
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Oh, that was when they were the Kansas City team was the farm club for the Yankees back in those days. They would shuffle washed-up veterans to the Yankees
let me
for
ask
top players.
Was that before or during the era of your idol, Mr. Charles O. Finley?
That was before Charlie O. Charlie O.
Okay.
never would have stood for that. Let's just be clear.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Yes, indeed.
I needed a little history lesson.
That's okay. Ed?
Look, I don't hate the savior of baseball like Mr. Swami here. I don't think he's the greatest player ever to grace the field by far.
If you don't think that, I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
But I don't have this utter contempt and hatred towards him, even though I hate the Yankees. They got him for nothing.
Correct.
They got him for nothing. And the fact that he played for them, they were all buddy-buddy. Now, the Marlins have a history of letting their star players just go. After a few years, what happens every time they won 2 World Series? After they won a World Series, they let everybody go.
The only thing different this time is that they didn't win first.
Right. So that's the only thing different. So them trading away Stanton wasn't a surprise. They basically said this is what we're doing. He's not staying here. So they got a bucket of balls and some baseball cards, and
But did you hear how it went down? I don't know if you read how it went down.
I did not read how it went down.
The Cardinals and Giants, who were the two teams I predicted if you watched previous episodes of SwamiLee's Sports Talk, were one of those two teams he was going to go to, probably the Giants. And the Marlins had deals worked out with both teams that were actually decent deals.
Okay.
Those teams were giving up prospects. I heard the Giants were going to give Arroyo up, who's, again, he's not Mickey Mantle, but he's a hot top prospect type player. The thing was, the Marlins and Mr. Jeter, the greatest human being to ever walk the earth, who could part the Red Sea and make water into wine, didn't check with Stanton in advance. So
Stanton had a no-trade clause, in case you didn't know.
Thank you for sharing it, yes. So he actually, he made these deals, then he went to Stanton, and Stanton said, I don't want to go to either team. So, Mr. Jeter, who was just done parting the Red Sea not long ago, I think he brought some plagues to Egypt next after that, he then went to Stanton and said, well, Stanton, if you don't accept a trade to the Giants or the Cardinals, we're just going to keep you, and you're going to be here forever. So Stanton said, whatever, do your thing. I'm getting paid $30 million a year. I'll play in, Tidewater, North Virginia if I can make $32 million, whatever it is a year. And then the next day, Jeter traded him to the Yankees for a bag of baseballs and a six-pack of Pepsi. You have no credibility, Jeter. You are the worst, and I mean the worst executive since Hawk Harrelson. You make Ed Wade look like Whitey Herzog, okay? You suck.
I need to interrupt you. I need to
probably a good thing.
I need to have a word with our executive producer to remind him to save that clip so that the next time the Swami calls Matt Klentak the worst executive, we can splice that in.
Matt Klentak is no Ed Wade, okay? In other words, Ed Wade made bad trades. Matt Klentak doesn't make any trades. There's a difference. I'd rather do nothing than do Ed Wade trades. But if you remember Hawk Harrelson...
But hold on.
Yes.
Why are we talking about Ed Wade when Derek Jeter is the problem?
No, my point was Jeter is the worst executive since Hawk Harrelson. He was worse than Ed Wade. I know Hawk Harrelson's a little before your time.
Yeah.
This dude was an announcer, former major leaguer, took over the White Sox, decimated the franchise in 1 year, and lost his job. I mean, he had Danny Tartable. You may remember Danny Tartable from his 5 at-bats in Philly.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, he was a top prospect that actually produced. That was one of the many players that Harrelson traded for Magic Beans and a CD of Tiffany or Debbie Gibson or something like that. It was really, really sad and pathetic.
So Harrison was the Chip Kelly of...
I would take Chip Kelly for the rest of my career over 1 year of Hawk Harrelson. I am telling you. You remember, this guy forgets, of all people. He forgets. Chip Kelly was a god when he came here that first year.
Not to me. I never won.
Chip Kelly got a lot of positive press and a lot of positive fans things. And then it all went to hell when they realized how bad he was.
Well, back to your hatred of Lord and Savior of Major League Baseball.
Yes.
I don't think he sucks. I don't think he sucks as a player. I don't think he was like God on earth, but I don't think he was horrible.
Tell me the truth.
I don't think he was horrible.
Tell me the truth. Did Jeter give you a gift basket?
No, he didn't.
Mike, did you get a gift basket from Derek Jeter?
I got nothing from Jeter except laughs when you go off on him.
Yeah, it's hysterical. I watch this show all the time, and every time he goes off, he's been going off on Jeter for as long as I've known him. So it's the most hysterical thing, and it's just this utter hatred and contempt from the bottom of his pit.
But Ed, part of it is the whole Yankee thing, because a comparable player on the Cleveland Indians or the San Francisco Giants, even if he had the rings that Jeter had, would not get that adulation. So it's a combination of Jeter and Yankees.
Gotcha.
Well, remember, Derek Jeter is Craig Biggio if he's an Astro, okay? And Craig Biggio, in spite of Mike's thoughts, Craig Biggio is a Hall of Fame ball player.
Except that he's not. But that's a discussion for another day. We're not going to get sidetracked. Craig Biggio is unfit for the Hall of Fame, but let's go back to Derek Jeter.
Derek Jeter, by the way, I read something the other day. Derek Jeter is going to be the first unanimous Hall of Famer, which says that Derek Jeter, now I'm not talking about Babe Ruth and stuff like that because that was way too long ago, but you're going to tell me that Derek Jeter was better than Tom Seaver? You gonna tell me Derek Jeter is better than Ken Griffey Jr.? Derek Jeter is better than Hank Aaron? Please. If you didn't vote for Tom Seaver in the first ballot, and you didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr. in the first ballot, and you vote for Derek Jeter in the first ballot, you got a gift basket. And you know what I mean. Okay? So that's all I'm gonna say to you.
He is completely red right now.
Dude,
I'm like getting heat. If I had one of those things, I could get a tan right now. His neck, ladies and gentlemen, the veins are popping out of the Swami's neck. It is the most hysterical thing I've only seen him this angry one time when I fed him mustard and hot sauce.
Oh, the Buffalo Wings
on the
back
Buffalo
in the Super
Wings.
Bowl. I remember that.
So that's the last time I saw him this angry before.
He fails to mention the Steelers lost that game to the Cowboys because of Neil O'Donnell throwing 2 passes to Larry Brown. But that's another story.
But
So Larry Brown was sort of a two-hit wonder, you might say.
Which means he had one more hit than Nirvana.
Oh, jeez, don't get me started.
Anyway, we really need to start winding down. Any more thoughts on Derek Jeter? Or I should say, any thoughts on Derek Jeter?
Well, his reign in Florida is not getting off to an auspicious start. I'm sorry, in Miami is not getting off to a great start. But, you know, if you believe what they said in Genesis, it took God a whole 6 days to create the earth. So I think you ought to give Derek a little more time, don't you?
So what you're saying is he might have an invisible touch, eh? He gets control and... No? Okay, I'm sorry.
Wow.
Ed?
You really went there. With that.
Any more thoughts on Derek Jeter?
I say he's out of Miami in 5 years, and he will be working with the Yankees organization in some capacity.
As maybe the...
I think he'll probably be like a director of player personnel, some type of scout, maybe assistant GM, something like that. But he will be back in New York, guaranteed. That's a fact. He will be back in New York in some capacity. I think he bombs out as a GM over in Miami in about 5 years.
Isn't he part of the ownership group? Because if so,
I think he'll sell.
He put a whopping $4 million in. Okay, what was the price of the thing? $1 billion.
That's like getting a number 2 at McDonald's for him.
If his name wasn't Derek Jeter, he wouldn't have even been known in this situation. But it made sense. I mean, you put the name. I don't disagree with that. I think it was a good move when I thought he had some form of knowledge of the sport of baseball. Now that he showed me he has no knowledge of the sport of baseball besides playing it, here's my last question on Derek Jeter. I swear I'll stop. Okay?
Sure.
What was worse, Derek Jeter's range at shortstop or Derek Jeter's abilities as a GM?
too early to tell. However, it is going to be hard for anything to top his lack of range toward the end of his career.
And what do you mean, end of his career? He never had range. He was never a fielder. He was a smart fielder, but he was never a good fielder. He never had the range. And by the way, I was thinking if we're going to build a statue to Jeter, just show some videos of him at shortstop. It's the same thing.
Wow. And there you have it, folks. The Swami does not like the Yankees or Derek Jeter.
And I realized I might get stoned or something, and not in a good way, when I walk out the building for insulting St. Derek. But you know what? Somebody has to say it.
We're in the Philly area. No one's going to bother you about that, so you're fine. You're fine.
I hear you. So this is what we're going to do. We are running out of time, but since the Swami rambled on a little bit too long, we're going to let both Mike and Ed talk about one topic. You got about 60 seconds. Go.
Well, friends, I think what we need to do is make a concerted effort to bring in Manny Machado. He's young enough that he's not in his prime, and so when the rest of this nucleus the Phillies are trying to put together really comes together, that is when Manny's going to hit his prime. He's a perfect fit for what we have going on here. Hopefully you can get something semi-valuable for Maikel Franco. And I like Franco, but obviously if my choices are Manny Machado or Maikel Franco, well, you know, we'll let the Swami drive Franco to the airport.
I'm okay with that. If Machado comes to town, I'll drive anybody in that roster to the airport, including Aaron Nola.
Oh, wow, really? Aaron Nola, too?
If you mean Machado, yes.
Okay.
But you're getting less. You're getting less in the deal.
Okay.
Ed, what else you got to say to us?
Well, Eagles fans, look at me. Look me directly in the eyes, okay? And I'm talking to Mel and Mike as well. You can...
Cuomo Lee gets dissed, but it's okay.
This is going to be hard. This is going to suck. There's going to be a lot of close games, but we gotta believe. I've gone through the stages of grief and acceptance and denial and all those things, and I've accepted the fact that this is where we are.
Have you done your bargaining and your acceptance yet? Your bargaining and your
Man,
depression
I
yet?
haven't prayed in about 15, 20 years, and I was praying like forever that maybe it was an MCL, it was just a sprain, and as always, Puerto Rican baby Jesus doesn't like me.
Did you do the pray dance?
I did the pray dance, and it didn't work.
Please, Hammer, don't hurt him.
And it didn't work. I will say, with the injury, the kid needs to be smarter when he comes back. The offensive line needs to get better. And I put part of this blame on Doug Peterson, because you have 3 running backs. You have Ajayi that was averaging over 5 yards per carry. Corey Clement was averaging over 5 yards per carry. And yet you still want to throw these little hook and out routes. And this is why this kid gets hurt. You know your offensive line is in shambles. Doug, you need to do a better job. Now you're forced to do it. You're forced to do it because Foles is not as good as Carson Wentz. So we'll see. We'll see when playoff time comes.
But he looks like Napoleon Dynamite, so I give him a lot of credit for that.
And I'll be there at a game. And don't make me regret it because it's cold outside.
Well, folks, thank you for tuning in to SwamiLee's Sports Talk here at SwamiLee's Sports Cards and Collectibles. I'm Swami Lee.
I'm Mike.
I'm Ed.
And we'll see you next time.
Put me in cold.